Hello, my dear students. A very warm welcome to all of you in Shri Jayendra Rank Zone. I am your friend and mentor for this subject, Business and Commercial Knowledge. In this lecture, we'll continue with Business Chapter 2, that is Business Environment. All the concepts will be covered in the coming series of lectures. So let us begin. This is lecture number 2, Business Environment. We are going to begin from relationship between organizations and its environment. Let us try and understand what is the relationship between the organization and the business environment in which the organization operates. Generally, what happens? A business operates in an environment. Supposingly, this is the business environment, and in this environment, this is the business. The employees of the business are a part of this environment. The government is a part of this environment. The suppliers are part of this environment. Banker is a part of this environment. Pressure groups, customers also are a part of this environment. So a business generally takes supply from the supplier, loan from the banker, labor services from the employee, and the customer purchases goods and services offered by the business. The business pays the taxes to the government and government gives infrastructure to the business. Government basically maintain the law order situation in the economy in which the business operates. Let us continue. In relation to the individual corporate enterprises, the external environment offers a range of opportunities, limitations, threats, and pressures for the government. Opportunities of new investments, opportunity of new investments, limitations, competitors, or threats from the competitors, pressure from pressure groups, environmentalist, environmentalist, and thereby influences the structure and functioning of the enterprise. Influence and power. So this is the environment, the business environment, and within the environment, the business operates. Any business operates. Exchange of resources is happening between business and the environment. What happens is, whatever products the business manufactures, that products is purchased by the customers. That is, they are the part of business environment, and the unemployed public, that is general public, employees, they give their labor services to the business. So business is taking the services of employee, and the same general public is purchasing the products manufactured by the business. I believe you understood. The business take information and feedback about the business from the business environment, and if there are any new opportunities, that is also available in the business environment only. Opportunities. The relationship between the organization and the environment may be discussed in terms of interactions between them in several major areas which are outlined below. First, exchange of information. The organization scans the external environment, variables, their behavior, and changes that generates important information and uses it for planning, decision making, and control process. Much of the organizational structure and functioning is attuned to the external environmental information. Whatever information the business get from the business environment, they need to adapt that information and change accordingly. If the demand for certain product is increasing in the market, in that case the business needs to start manufacturing that product, and if they are already manufacturing that product, in that case they have to increase the production of that product so that the demand in the market should be met accordingly. Information generation is one way to get over the problems of uncertainty and complexity of the business environment. As we have already discussed, business environment is very complex. We can understand different variables of the business environment individually, but together it is very difficult to understand in a very combined manner. Information is to be gathered on economic activity and market conditions, technological developments that is happening in the market, social and demographic organization, and so on. Both current and projected information is important for the organization. Supposingly, if there is a projected information that in future the demand of this product is going to rise, from the market research we have evaluated that the demand from this product is going to rise. In that case, the business needs to start manufacturing that product or increase the supply of that product in the market, or they have to manufacture and store that product in the warehouse. So in a near future, whenever the price of that product, whenever the demand of that product arise in the market, the business needs to supply and met the demand in the market, the additional demand that has been generated in the market, so that there should not be a problem of inflation that should happen. Next, apart from gathering information, the organization itself transmits information to several external agencies, either voluntarily, inadvertently, or legally. Other organizations and individuals may be interested in the organization and its functioning and hence approach the organization for information. Which kind of information? Statistical information. Statistical information. If the business has done some kind of market research, the information related to market research. If the customer had given some kind of positive or negative feedback, they could share this feedback. So feedback from customers. Feedback from the customers. These all information is a vital information for the manufacturers or producers. With the help of these information, they can make changes in their production or production technique, their changes in their product, they can make the changes in their product, and whatever they will make the changes according to the feedback given by the customers, who are the ultimate consumers, who are the ultimate buyer of the product. The business is generating revenue because customer is buying the product, so we need to take care of the feedback given by the customers. I believe you understood. Reality bite. Any data having commercial importance is information. For example, change in the government law for new vehicle engine norms is data for a biscuit manufacturer, but an information for the automobile manufacturer that we need to start manufacturing BS6 engine in future. So from BS4 engines to the BS6 engines, they need to shift from BS4 engines to BS6 engines because the government has changed the law. The norms of the government in relation to the vehicles has changed, and that is why it's a information for the automobile industry, but it's just a data. It's a raw data for biscuit manufacturer, because a biscuit manufacturer, this data is not useful for a biscuit manufacturer. I believe you understood. Exchange of resources. The organization receives inputs, that is finance, material, raw material, inputs in terms of manpower, equipment from the external environment through contractual and other arrangements. Through contractual and other arrangements. The resources are often characterized as 5 M's: men, money, method, machine, and material. It sustains itself by employing the above input for involving on producing output of products and services. The organization interacts with the factor markets for purposes of getting its input. It competes sometimes and collaborates sometimes with the other organization in the process of ensuring a consistent supply of inputs. The organization is dependent on the external environment for disposal of its output and products and services to the wide range of clientele. This is known as interaction process, perceiving the needs of the external environment and catering to them, satisfying the expectation and demands of the clientele group, such as customers, employees, shareholders, creditors, supplier, local community, general public, and so on. The next is exchange of influence and power. Another area of organizational environment interaction is the exchange of power and influence. The external environment holds considerable power over the organization, both by virtue of its being more inclusive as also by virtue of its command over resources, command over information, and other inputs. It offers a range of opportunities, it offers a range of incentives and rewards on the one hand, and set of constraints, threats, and restrictions on the other. In both ways, the organization is conditioned and constrained. The external environment is also in a position to impose its will over the organization and can force it to fall in line. Sometimes organizations are also in a position to wield considerable power and influence over some of the elements of the external environment. In case of monopoly, we have seen this by virtue of its command over the resources and command over the information and command over the product supply, to the extent that the organization is also able to hold power over the environment. It increases its autonomy and freedom of action. It can dictate terms to the external forces and mold them to its will. In some situations, the organization is powerful. In many of the situations, the business environment is powerful. Reality: FMCG company Patanjali, endorsed by Baba Ramdev, is now a big player in the industry and giving a tough competition to the well established FMCG player, fast mover consumer goods player like Hindustan Unilever, Godrej, Dabur, Procter and Gamble, etc. Now people prefer Ayurvedic products over chemical products. Patanjali's success is taken to the position where it can influence the market surely because they have considerable market share. Patanjali gathers the information from the market and competitors about the public preference and demands and then uses it to fulfill them through the modifications in the existing product and launching new products. So Patanjali gathers the information from the market, use that information, manufacture new products in relation to the old products only. They change the system and accordingly they launch the product into the market. They introduce the product to the customers. Customers will like the product and accordingly the company Patanjali is flourishing. In defining a relationship between the organization and the environment, one has to be clear of the diversity of both these identities. The nature of relationship depends upon the size of the organization, age of the organization, nature of the organization, nature of ownership, degrees of professionalization of management. Let's move ahead. Organizations response to the environment. Organizations response to its environment, that is business environment. So organizations must have the capacity to monitor and make sense of their environment. If they are to respond appropriately, they must identify and attend to those of environmental factors and features that are closely related to the global achievement and performance. Moreover, they must have the internal capacity to develop effective responses. Three classes of response are described below. First response is administrative response. The most common organizational response to the business environment are administrative response. These respond these include the formation or clarification of the organization's mission, to develop of the development of objectives, policies and budgets, or the creation of scanning units. These responses can be either proactive or reactive and are aimed at defining the organization's purpose and key tasks in relationship to particular environment. I believe it is clear. I believe it is clear. Competitive response. Competitive response to the environment typically are associated with for-profit firms but also apply to non-profits and governmental organizations. Non-profit organizations and the governmental organizations. Such actions seek to enhance the organizations performed by establishing a competitive advantage over its rivals. To sustain competitive advantage, organizations must achieve an external position vis-a-vis their competitors or perform internally in ways that are unique, valuable, and difficult. Difficult to imitate, difficult to copy. So production technique should be such so that it would be difficult to copy, difficult to imitate by the competitors. This should be the production technique should be unique and valuable so that the organization should be able to survive in a longer period of time in the market. Their formula of manufacturing the product should not be discussed with anyone else, and in that way we could give competitive response to the rivals. Next is collective response. Organizations can cope up with performance of environmental dependence and uncertainty through increased coordination with other organizations. Collective response help control interdependencies among organizations and include such methods as bargaining, contracting, co-opting, and creating joint ventures, federations, strategies, alliance, and consortia. Contemporary organizations are increasingly turning towards joint ventures and partnerships with other organizations to manage environmental uncertainty, to perform tasks that are too costly and complicated for single organizations to perform. So, if one organizations will be performing that task, it would be too costly. The cost of production will increase. The unit cost per product will increase. The product will become inexpensive, and they will be out of the market. So they will perform that task collectively so that they will be able to save the cost, and it is not possible for a single organization to manage that alone. I believe you understood. Reality: pharmaceutical firms are forming strategy alliance for distributions, non-competing medications and avoid the high cost of establishing sales organizations. Firms from different countries are forming joint ventures to overcome restrictive trade barriers, and high technology firms are forming research consortia to undertake significant and costly research and development. Environmental influences on business. Environment factors or constraints are largely, if not totally, external and beyond the control of individual industrial enterprises and their managements. Business environment is largely, it's like not controllable. Business environment affect the business accordingly. These are essentially the givers within which the firms and the management must operate in a specific country, and they vary often greatly from country to country. All living creatures, including human beings, live within the environment. Apart from the natural environment of humans include family, friend, peers, neighbors, and society. It also includes man-made structures such as building, furniture, roads, and physical infrastructure. Just like human beings, businesses also does not function in isolated vacuum. It's not possible at all. So businesses function within the whole gambit of group of relevant environment and have to negotiate their way through it. The extent to which the business thrives depend on the manner in which it will interact with the environment. To be successful, business has to not only recognize their elements of business environment but also respect, adapt, or manage and influence the business environment accordingly. The business must continuously monitor and adapt according to the environment if they need to survive and prosper in that environment. If the business environment is changing, the business also needs to adapt and change according to the environment. A stressful business has to identify, a successful business has to identify the business opportunities, appraise and responds to the various opportunities that is there in the environment. They need to protect themselves from the threat that is present in the environment. Let us see the situation of Cadbury Dairy Milk. So, complaints received across India for worms in chocolates few years back. Quality of the product become questionable, and the goodwill and reputation of the brand is at stake. The sales level dropped in the market. Regulatory authority probe orders against Cadbury. In-house quality investigations to find out the cause. Introduction of new improved packaging in record of 90 days in the market that has happened. Created a special Visi cooler among with Voltas to keep chocolates in good and hygienic conditions till the last POP, that is the point of purchase, that is the final consumer. So that basically Cadbury fight back and they tried to solve the problem which was arised in the market. Lesson learned. Respect to the complaints and taking note of the fact that chocolates had worms. Adapting to change, the packaging in record breaking time, that is 90 days, managing the crisis of the company properly and keeping employee morale high in this situation also, influence the market with great comeback, that is ad campaign, marketing campaign. Business functions as a part of broader environment. The inputs of the human form of humans, physical, financial, other related resources are drawn from the environment. Business converts these resources through various processes into outputs of products and services. The latter are partly exchanged from the external client groups, say customers. The exchange process brings in some kind of surplus, profits, reputation, good public image, brand image, and so on to the business, which could be stored and used for further development and growth. Different organizations use different inputs, adopt different processes, and produce different outputs. For example, an educational institution produces literate people literate people. A hospital provides health and medical facilities, medical services to the patients. Organizations depend on the external environment for the input required by them for disposing of their outputs in a mutually beneficial manner. The input output exchange activity is a continuous process and calls for an active interaction with the external environment. Framework to understand the environmental influences. Let us shift to this topic, framework to understand the environmental influences. In spite of the problems in understanding business environment, organizations cannot ignore it. We will make an attempt to identify a framework for understanding the environment of organization. This will help in identifying key issues, find ways of copying and complexity, and also assist in challenging managerial thinking. Firstly, it is useful to take an initial view of the nature of the organization's environment in terms of how uncertain the environment is. Is it relatively static, or does it show signs of change, and in what ways? It is simple or complex to comprehend. This helps in deciding what focus the rest of the analysis is to take. Secondly, the next step might be the auditing of environmental influences. Here, the aim is to identify which of the many different environmental influences are likely to affect the organization's development or performance. It is useful to identify and influence factors and relate such influences. The final step is to focus more towards an explicit considerations of the immediate environment of the organization. For example, the competitive arena in which the organizations operate. There should be an attempt to understand why the forces are of strategic significance. It is also required to analyze the organization's competitive position, that is, how it stands in relation to the organizations competing for the same resources or customers or itself. How we are trying to solve the issues of the customers, how our competitors are handling the situations. We need to be aware about each things. You have recently joined Coca-Cola as a manager, and your first assignment is to prepare a mind map and list out all the factors that affect the brand Coca-Cola. It may include all the factors such as positive factors, negative factor, good or bad factors. Coca-Cola. So over here, internal and external factors are shown. Pepsi, natural drink, seasonality, distribution network, promotion and schemes, the packaging of the product, health awareness, religious gurus and their views. These all will act as a factor that will affect the Coca-Cola as a brand. Let's move ahead. Let's move ahead. Why environmental analysis? Why there is a need to protect the environment? Let us begin. When the time does not react to the demands of the environment by changing its strategy, the result is declining performance and the company in the market. The business needs to the business need to be in the loss situation. The business will not perform well and the business need to suffer. Business needs to suffer by incurring or facing losses. Utility of environmental analysis. From environmental analysis, strategists get time to anticipate opportunities that are available in the market. And so opportunities could be new investment plans, and the plan to take optional response to these opportunities. It can also help strategies to develop an early warning signal or system to prevent threats or to develop strategies which can turn in threat to the firm's advantage. It is clear that because of the difficulty to assessing the future, not all future events can be anticipated. To the extent that some of the most are anticipated by the analysis and diagnosis, managerial decisions are likely to be better. The manager can concentrate on these few instead of having to deal with all the environmental influences. So this was utility of environmental analysis. So in a business environment, there are few environmental elements which is affecting the organization or company. In that case, the business needs to focus on those environmental analysis, those environmental element to a greater extent, and they should give priority to those elements. Purpose of environmental analysis. In general, environmental analysis has three basic goals. Three basic goals. First, the analysis should provide an understanding of current and potential charges taking place in the environment. It is important that one must be aware of the existing environment. At the same time, one must have a long-term perspective about the future. The long-term plan of the company must be ready. Long-term futuristic plan must be ready. The company's vision should be clear that in the future what company needs to achieve. Second, the environmental analysis should provide inputs for strategic decision making. Mere collection of data is not enough. The information collected must be useful for and used in strategic decision making. Third, environment analysis should facilitate and foster strategic thinking. In organizations, typically a rich source of ideas an understanding of the context within which the firm operates. It should challenge the current wisdom by bringing fresh viewpoints into the organization. Environmental scanning. The next topic is environmental scanning. Organizational environment consists of both internal factors and external factors. Environment must be scanned so as to determine the development and forecast of factors that will influence the organization's success. So those factors which are protecting the environment, which are protecting the organization in the environment, or those factors which can, because of those factors, the business can come into problematic situation, the business can face losses, it could aggressively adversely affect the organizations. In that case, in that case, we need to make a strategic plan and move on. Environmental scanning can be defined as Environmental scanning can be defined as the process by which organizations monitor their relevant environment to identify opportunities and threats that affect the business for the purpose of taking strategic decisions. It is the process of gathering information regarding company's environment, analyzing it and fostering the impact of all predictable environmental changes. It helps the managers to decide the future path of the organization. Process of environmental scanning. Inputs could be taken from the environment. Scanning strategies should be fixed. Environmental scanning. There are certain internal factors within the organizations. Those should be kept in mind before doing environmental scanning. Perceived environmental changes. After scanning, what changes what changes that could be required in the business environment, and strategic change that will affect the environment accordingly. Scanning must identify the threat and opportunities existing in the organization, while strategy formulation, an organization must take the advantage of opportunities and minimize the threats in the business environment. A threat of an organization may be opportunity for the others. It's obvious. For some organization that will work as a opportunity, and for another organization that will work as a threat. The factors which need to be considered for environmental scanning are events, trends, issues and expectations of the different interest groups. These factors are explained below. Events are important and specific occurrence taking place in different environmental sectors. Events are certain happenings in the internal or external organization environment which can be observed and tackled. Trends are the general tendencies or the course of action along with events take place. Trends are grouping of similar related events that tend to move in a given direction increasingly or decreasingly in strength or frequency of observation, usually suggest a pattern of change in a particular area. Third, issues are the current concern that arise in response to events and trends. Identifying emerging issues is more difficult. Emerging issues start with a value shift or a change in how an issue is viewed. Expectations are the demand made by interested groups in the light of their concern for issues. Components of business environment. Business environment, internal environment and external environment. Let's see the internal environment first. Value system. which prevails in the organization is a part of internal environment. Mission statement, vision of the organization and objectives of the organization, organizational structure, functional structure and divisional structure, corporate culture of the organization, quality of human resources, labor unions, physical resources and technological capabilities within the organization, external environment, micro environment and macro environment. Let's understand the micro environment first. Organization itself, customers, competitors, market suppliers and intermediaries. Macro environment, economic, political, legal, technological, global, socio-cultural and demographic environment are a part of macro environment. Let's begin with internal environment. Internal environment is composed of multiple elements existing within the organization, including management, current employees, corporate culture. Internal environment is the conditions, people, event, and factors within the organization that influence its activities and choice. Particularly, the behavior of the employees is a part of internal environment. Factors that are frequently considered part of the internal environment also influence the organization's mission statement, leadership styles, and organizational cultures. External environment. A business does not operate in vacuum. It has to act and react to what happened outside the factory and within the office walls. These factors that happen outside the business are known as external factors or influences. These will affect the internal functions of the business and also the objectives of the business and the strategies. There are two major types of external environment: micro environment and macro environment. The environment in which the organization exists can therefore be described in the term of opportunities and threats operating in the external environment apart from the strength and weaknesses. Strength, weaknesses are obviously there, but there are few opportunities that could be available from the environment, and we also need to understand about the threat that prevails in the environment. The four environmental influence could be as follows. A strength, a strength is an inherent capacity which an organization can use to gain strategic advantage over the competitors. An example of strength is superior research and development skills, which can be used for new product development so that the company gains competitive advantage over the others. The company's strength should be such that it will act like a USP of the company, the unique selling proposition of the company. Next, a weakness is an inherent limitation or the constraint which creates a strategic disadvantage. An example of weakness is over dependence on a single product line, which is potentially risky for a company in time of crisis. An opportunity is a favorable condition in an organization's environment which enables it to consolidate and strengthen its position. An example of opportunity is growing demand for the product or service that the company provides. A threat is an unfavorable conditions in an organization's environment which creates a risk for and causes damage to the organization. An example of a threat is the emergence of strong new competitors who are likely to offer stiff competition in the existing companies in an industry. An understanding of the external environment in terms of the opportunities and threats and the internal environment in terms of the strength and weakness is crucial for the existence, growth and profitability of any organization. They need to understand then what are the areas where the improvement is required, which act as a weakness, what are the strength of the company, how we can extend the existence of the company, what are the growth propositions, where are the opportunities available, how the companies can improve the profitability of the business, and so on. Let us do SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunity, threat analysis. SWOT analysis. A systematic approach A systematic approach to understanding of environment is the SWOT analysis business firms undertake. SWOT analysis to understand an external and internal environment. SWOT is in the acronym for strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. It's simple. Let us resume. Through such an analysis, through SWOT analysis, the strength and weakness existing within the organization can be matched with the opportunities and threats operating in the environment so that an effective strategy can be formulated. An effective organization strategy, therefore, is one that capabilities on the opportunities through the use of strength neutralize the threats by minimizing the impact of weaknesses. S stands for using strength of the organization, minimizing impacts of weaknesses, capitalizing opportunities available in the market, and neutralizing the threats of the market, threats that is related with our organization. This is the objective of this SWOT analysis. The process of strategy formulation starts with a critically depends on the appraisal of external and internal environment of an organization. We will learn about more SWOT analysis in the next chapter, that is strategic management at intermediate level. Micro environment and macro environment. Micro environment, factors which directly affect the day-to-day functioning of the firm, act like a micro environment. Macro environment factors decide the overall direction thinking of the firm. What is an environment? Environment consists of all the things affecting the business, all the things. Micro environment, strength is within the business and weaknesses is within the organization. Opportunities and threats, generally these are a part of my macro environment. The environment of business can be broadly categorized into micro environment and macro environment. Micro environment is related to small area or immediate periphery of an organization. Micro environment influence on organizations regularly and directly. Within the micro or the immediate environment in which a firm operates, we need to address the following issues. The employees of the firm, their characteristics and how they are organized. The customer base on which the firm relies for the business. The ways in which the firm can raise its finance. Who are the firm's supplier and how are the links between the two being developed. The local community within which the firms operate, the direct competition and how they perform, The last point might act as a convenient linking point as we move towards the macro issues influencing the ways a firm react in the marketplace. Microenvironment consists of the suppliers of the organization, the consumer of the organization, the marketing intermediaries related to the organization, and these are specific to the said business or firm and affects its working on short-term basis. Microenvironment, customers, one who pays to acquire the product. Organization consists of the owners, board of directors, and employees. Market, price sensitivity, market maturity, and cost structure. Intermediaries, one who act as a bridge between the manufacturer and the marketer. Competitors, other entities that compete the resources as well as markets. Suppliers are the bargaining with the bargaining power affect the cost structure of the company. If the supplier is having less bargaining power, it is in the favor of the organization, and if the supplier is having more bargaining power, in that case this is an adverse situation to the organization, because supplier may wants to or will want to sell the products to us with an increased prices, and that will affect the cost of production adversely. Macro environment has broader dimensions. It mainly consists of economic, technological, political, legal and socio-cultural environment. The issues consisting as organizations are: what are the threats in the competitive world in which it operates and why? Which areas of technology might pose a threat to the current product range and why? The bargaining power of supplier and the bargaining power of the customer. The classification of the relevant environment into components or sectors helps an organization to cope with the complexity, comprehend the different influences operating and relating to environmental changes to its strategic management process. The business environment can be divided into two major components. Macro environment. Macro environment consists of demographics and economic conditions, socio-cultural factors, political and legal systems, technological developments and global trends. These constitute the general environment which affect the working of the firm. At macro level, demographic, that is population size and income distribution, will affect the environment. Political factors like government policies and legal laws about the industry. Economic factors like interest rate and level of disposable income of the consumers. Social factors like traditions, beliefs and culture. Technological factors like opportunities arising and risk and uncertainty in the business environment. Government changes in the policies and approach towards the development. Legal factors like introduction of new laws like goods and service tax, real estate regulation act, etc. Global factors like changes in the world level political climate as well as environmental issues. Elements of macro environment. Elements of macro environment. Elements of micro environment. This is also known as the task environment and affects business and marketing in a daily operation level. When the changes in the macro environment affect the business in the long run, the micro elements The micro environmental changes are noticed immediately. Organizations have to closely analyze and monitor all the elements of microenvironment in order to stay competitive. The first element is consumers. So basically, we can say that consumers is the one who ultimately consumes or uses the product or service produced by an organization. A consumer occupies the central position in the marketing environment. Consumer is the king. If we talk about the aspects of the consumers or the environment, so there could be a potential consumers that are present, benefits and utilities that consumers and customer expect from the companies, buying pattern of the consumer should be taken into consideration, and changes in the consumer taste and preference will happen time to time. Accordingly, the business also needs to change according to the taste and preference of the consumer. So business needs to change according to the expectation of the consumer. I believe you understood. According to Peter Drucker, the aim of business is to create and retain consumer. Consumers are the people who pay money to acquire the organization's product. The product may be both in the form of goods or services. The organizations cannot survive without customers. Customers may or may not be a consumer. Customer may or may not be a consumer. Many a times it happens that your father purchases some goods for you. So you are the consumer, your father is the customer. The one who is paying is the customer, the one who is consuming is the consumer. It may happen that the father will buy some products for himself. In that case, the customer and the consumer are the same person. I believe it is crystal clear. Consumer is the one who ultimately consumes or use the product or service. A father may buy a product as a customer for his daughter who will be a consumer. A consumer occupies the central position in the marketing environment. The marketer has to closely monitor and analyze changes in the consumer taste and preferences. The whole taste and preferences, the pattern need to be understood and their buying habits. Who are the consumers or customers? What benefits they are looking from, they are looking for in the product? What are their buying patterns? And so on. Let's move ahead. Competitors. Let's move ahead. Competitors. So basically, competitors refers to they are the other business entities that compete for resources as well as market from us within the business environment. Competition may be direct competition or could be indirect competition. Direct competition are there between the firms which is the same business industry. But if I talk about the indirect competition is between the firms in different areas of activity. Example, a holiday resort and a car manufacturing company competes for available discretionary income of the consumers. I believe you understood. The major aspects to be considered for analyzing the competitions could be the number of competitors available into the market. If there would be a more number of competitors available into the market, it would be tough for the firm to compete and to catch market share. Nature of the products available into the market, long-term objectives of the competition, present strategies adopted by the competitors. Let us do it quickly. Competitors are the other business entities that compete for resources as well as market. Competition shapes business. A study, a study of the competitive scenario is essential for the marketer, particularly threats for competition. Following are a few of major questions that may be addressed for analyzing the competition. Who are the competitors? Who are their what are their business objectives? Who are the most aggressive and more powerful competitors? Competition may be direct competition or may be an indirect competition. Direct competition is between the organizations which are of the same business activity. For example, Indian shampoo sachet market. There are so many competitors who are competing to increase the market share. At the same time, competition can also be indirect. For example, competition between a holiday resort and a manufacturing company for available a discretionary income of affluent customers in Indian market. There is a pictorial presentation of Indian shampoo sachet market. Individuals occupying different positions of working in different capacities in organizations consist of individuals coming from outside the market. They have different and varied interest. In microenvironment analysis, nothing is important as self-analyzing by the organizations itself. Understanding its own strength and capabilities in a particular market, that is, understanding a business in depth, should be the goal of the firm's internal analysis. The objectives, goals, and the resources available of a firm occupies a critical position in the micro environment. An organization has several non-specific elements of organization's surroundings that may affect its activities. These consist of specific organizations or groups that are likely to influence the organizations. These are owners, there are individuals, shareholders, groups, or organizations who have a major stake in the organization. They have a vested interest in the well being of the company. Next, the board of directors. Board of directors are found in companies formed under the Companies Act 1956. The board of directors is elected by the shareholders and is charged with overseeing the general management of the organization. So basically, management of the organizations to ensure that it is being run in a way that is the best in the shareholders' interest. Employees. Employees are the people who actually do the work for the organization. They are the major force within the organization. It is important for an organization that employee embrace the same values and goals as an organization. However, they differ in beliefs, education, attitude, capabilities. When the managers and the employees work towards the different goals, everyone suffers, inclusive of organization. Market. The market is larger than customers. The market is to be studied in the terms of its actual and potential size, its growth prospects in future, and also its attractiveness. The marketer should study the trend and development of key success factor of the market he is operating. Important issues in the market are cost structure of the market, the price sensitivity of the market, technological structure of the market, the existing distribution system of the market, and is the market mature enough? The next element of microenvironment is supplier. So supplier provide inputs like raw material, components, equipment, services. Firms has to take decisions whether to make the product or to buy the product from outside. Own production or outsourcing is important. Availability of the material is there in the market or not? What is the extent of the competition that is there within the supplier? The cost structure of the materials and services, what kind of quality we are going to produce, what is the bargaining power of the supplier, and whether the supplier will be able to supply the product in a timely manner or not. These things should be taken into account. Suppliers form an important component of the micro environment. They provide raw materials, equipment, services, and so on. Large companies rely on hundreds of suppliers to maintain their production. Supplier with their own bargaining power affect the cost structure of the industry. They constitute a major force which shapes competition in the industry. Also, organizations have to take a major decision in outsourcing or in-house production depending upon the supplier's environment. Reality. Whenever you purchase a packet of biscuit and take closer look of the pack, you will realize that the company selling the biscuit and the company actually making the biscuit is actually different. For example, if you take a look on the image below of the biscuit packet, you will see the difference. Here, the Parle is marketing the biscuit and others are making on behalf of Parle. This is called outsourcing. So this product is marketed by Parle Products Private Limited, that is the marketing unit, and manufactured by HCF Foods Private Limited, Bareilly Road. Over here it has Bareilly Road, it is written over here. That is the manufacturing is outsourced to different suppliers, that is the manufacturers. Intermediaries. Intermediaries are basically the middlemen. So intermediaries in a marketing channel, that is the wholesalers, retailers, dealers, establishes an important link between the organization and the customers. Aspects of this environment that have an impact on the businesses could be availability of the intermediaries, the cost push effect of the intermediaries, and many a times effect of direct dealings with the customer on the business operations. Many a time, if the business will deal directly with the customer will deal directly with the organization, the customer will get some benefit and sometime not. So intermediaries exert a considerable influence on the business organization. They can also be considered as the major determining force of the business. In many cases, the consumers are not aware of the manufacturer of the product then buy. They buy product from the local retailers, big departmental stores or online stores that are increasingly became popular. I believe you understood. I believe you understood till here. Let us quickly revise what we have done in today's class. We started with by doing the relationship between the organization and the environment. We have seen there is a direct link between the organization and the business environment. Business environment is a very wider concept. Organization operates in a business environment. Organization's response to its environment. We have seen the administrative response, competitive response, collective response. Environmental influences on the business. Environment will bring opportunities for the organization or even threats for the organization. The organization needs to be ready for that and needs to basically make a proper planning to come out of it. The Cadbury did so because there was a issue that there is a worm which is coming out of the Cadbury chocolates. They had improved the packaging. They did a tie-up with Voltas to make this special refrigerator for keeping the chocolate safe and in a hygienic condition. Framework to understand the environmental influences. External and internal. Utility of environmental analysis. Purpose of environmental analysis. Environmental scanning. You have seen this diagram. Components of business environment. So we have internal environment and external environment. We started with internal environment. We learnt about external environment, and then we have seen today the SWOT analysis, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats that relates to the business organization, micro and macro environment, elements of micro environment. This is the last topic we have discussed today. The customers, competitors, market itself, suppliers, and intermediaries. I believe you understood till here. I believe you understood. We are keeping it till here. Thank you. Thank you.